Hello, and welcome to Cheers to Fears, where we take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Tucker.
And I'm Alex. Today we are making a drinking game for Paranormal Activity 4, directed by the same people that did the last movie, Joost and Ariel Schulman. The movie is written by Christopher Landon once again, and Chad Feehan.
Paranormal Activity follows Alex as she takes notice of an odd little boy that recently moved into her neighborhood named Robbie. Robbie's mom suddenly falls ill, causing Alex's mom to take pity on the young child and invite him into their house as he has nowhere else to go. As Robbie is quickly becoming friends with Alex's younger brother Wyatt, she starts seeing paranormal activity around the house. In order to catch the supernatural occurrences on film, she, with the help of her boyfriend, sets up all the computers in the house to record at all times so she can capture what is going on around the house.
This is not only the fourth installment in the series, but it is also the first sequel in the franchise, as Paranormal Activities 2 and 3 were both prequels. With that being said, there will be spoilers for this movie and the past 3 movies in this video. If you do not want to get spoiled, take our drinking rules and watch the movie and come back when you are done. With that out of the way, let's move on to the rules.
So let's start off the rules again with death, and this time it doubled the last movie with 4 deaths.
Yeah, and that's pretty much because, again, at the very end of the movie, everybody dies except for Wyatt.
Wyatt's the only one to live.
Yeah, in the household, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's common throughout the whole franchise so far that none of the deaths are very gruesome. It's either just a snap of the neck or, there's no blood shown, there's no gore or anything.
Yeah.
It's just pretty underwhelming. In this one especially, there's not even that much tension before the deaths.
Yeah, that's true. The only one I can think of where there's any sort of blood is, I believe, the first death in the franchise, which is Mika's death.
Yeah.
And we don't even see the blood come out of him. We just see Katie with a bloody shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Now let's just quickly go over the next rule, which is screams, cries, or yells. If you hear any one of these, you take a sip, and that came to a total of 19 sips.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. We'll just move right along to rule number 3, which is whenever you see a jump scare. And this happened 20 times in this film.
So all the other movies, I would say, had decent jump scares, or at least one recognizable one.
One that kind of stood out as memorable, yeah.
And I really don't remember one from this movie. Maybe the chandelier falling, but
yeah,
that could be it.
That happened in many other paranormal activities, or it happened at least in another one. So they're just copying jump scares at this point too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something I noticed with this film. It seemed to copy a lot of stuff that they've already done.
That's because it's the same movie. I mean, they're trying not to copy it, but it's really hard to not copy a formula that they basically tried to get down to a T, which is a money grab.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next rule is whenever paranormal activity occurs, you take a sip, and that came to a total of 21 sips.
Yeah, and this one kind of has a lot of times it's easier to spot because of the Kinect infrared dots or whatever that they show.
Yeah.
You can see stuff moving a lot easier when the dots are moving with it.
Mm-hmm.
So for those scenes, it does stand out a little bit more, I'd say.
Yep.
But not much else to say on that rule, so we'll move on to rule number 5. It's another one that's coming back. It's whenever a camera is mentioned. And this only happened 4 times.
Total invasion of privacy.
I didn't do it, my computer did.
And you recorded me sleeping?
Again, it was my computer, it didn't log off.
Oh my God,
It
what
has
do you...
nothing to do with, you think I just sit here and stare at it?
Yeah.
Trust me, in a minute you're gonna be thanking me that I recorded it. Oh, there we go, it's coming.
Yeah, I feel like the main reason that we didn't get a lot of sips for this is because it was just automatically recording and nobody really had to mention it since it was on the laptops.
Yeah, and also because it was on laptops, they're not really talking about cameras, they're mentioning go look at the laptop, not the camera.
Yeah,
so,
that was the other thing that we should clarify. If they're mentioning the laptop, it's not a drink. It's only a drink when they mention, I guess, the camera. What did you record or something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah. Moving on to rule number 6 is whenever there's a night number. That came to a total of 9 sips.
Yeah, and again, this is still coming back. We say it every episode. We don't know if it's going to stick around. This time, I'm 95% sure it's not going to be in the next one.
Yeah. I mean, we could have kept it a franchise rule, but I mean, for the next installment, I feel like it's kind of pointless, so we'll see what we got for that.
Yeah. Anyways, rule number 7, it's whenever Robbie does something unsettling, and that came to 8 sips.
So this is kind of just to show what a creepy kid he is, doing things such as saying, oh, Toby doesn't like you, or doing unsettling things such as randomly appearing in a treehouse late at night.
Yeah, or when he first meets Wyatt, he just puts out his hand
and
to
just
shake
shakes
him,
his hand.
standing there all stiff as a board. It was just very awkward.
Mm-hmm.
He's just he's just a very unsettling and weird kid.
Yeah.
And it works decently well, I guess, for the movie.
Yeah. Rule number 8 is whenever you see the Xbox Kinect lights, and that came to a total of 11 sips.
Yeah, and we mentioned in the last video about how Paranormal Activity 3 with the fan, like the oscillating fan camera, was kind of the start of the gimmicks, and this was the gimmick they used in this movie, and yeah, it was interesting. It was something. I don't know what to call it.
Something.
I think it was just used for product placement.
Yeah, and that's really weird that you mention it. I feel like there was a good amount of subtle product placement in this movie. I remember they mentioned like, oh, I want a Kit Kat or something like that. You're gonna give me a Kit Kat. And I know the funny thing is that the boyfriend in the movie, Ben, I think he grabs a Pepsi from the fridge.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, you just enter the house and just grab a Pepsi.
Yeah,
that's kind of weird.
there.
Nobody's there. However, it was made by Paramount, and if you remember in our Scream 2 review, there was a lot of Pepsi product placement in that movie.
Yeah.
So I feel like they support each other quite a bit. I think they have actually had promoted each other at different points. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Pepsi and Paramount Pictures product place each other, or at least Paramount product places Pepsi a lot.
There's a lot of P's in those sentences.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on to rule number 9. It's whenever Robbie's mom is mentioned. And this happened 8 times in the film.
Do you even know his mom, though? Like, it's really nice, but we don't even know that.
So this is obviously revealed to be Katie from the last movie.
Yeah, so technically not his mom.
Yeah.
Really? But it's mentioned that she is his mom,
Yeah.
so that's what we're calling it.
Also, we should mention, how the fuck has she gotten away with just kind of being in public after murdering her sister, boyfriend, and brother-in-law?
I know. And, like, especially because all of those were recorded on video, too.
Yeah.
That she was the one that did it. So, like, obviously, the police would have the footage at this point.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't know how she keeps getting away with it. I mean, plot convenience.
Pretty much. Now moving on to the last rule is whenever Alex is on her laptop, which came to a total of 11 sips.
Yeah, and it was just something that happened frequently enough in the movie to justify it being a rule, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That wraps up all the rules for this drinking game. Total number of sips this time around came to 115, which is equivalent to drinking about 4 standard 12-ounce cans based on our 30 sip per can scale.
So nowhere in the movie was it really difficult to get through any part. I feel like, again, it was paced fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
Always the drinking kind of increased during the night sequences, followed by screams, cries, yells, jump scares, paranormal activity occurring, Xbox lights,
Yeah,
so on
like
and so forth, yeah.
The same trend that's gone on for the past 3 movies.
Yeah.
Or 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I'm just getting sick of how repetitive these movies are.
Yeah.
And, like, this time around, it's the exact same movie. We mentioned it in the jump scare rule. They started copying exactly like some of the jump scares they used in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But to make things even worse, it feels like a lot of the cast or characters are just bland.
Yeah, I know how we said in our last episode, a lot of people think 3 is kind of the peak of the franchise. Well, it's really weird for the 3rd movie to be pretty good and this movie to just fall off a cliff. Like, this could be considered, I'd say, one of the low points in the franchise for sure. And it's really weird saying that because Catherine Newton, who plays Alex in the movie, she's done good films before. Like, I'm pretty sure she was in Detective Pikachu, I recall. Mm-hmm. And she was also really good in Freaky, the one movie that was also directed by Christopher Landon. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, Christopher Landon, the writer for this movie.
Yeah.
But she was not able to hold the cast together at all. Like, she wasn't terrible by any means, but she wasn't great.
Well, yeah, and I think that was the main problem. Nobody was great.
Yeah.
Nobody fell flat on their face either. Like, Robbie was decent. Like, for a kid actor, there's no real complaints about him. But, like, there wasn't a lot of characteristics to separate them from one another. Like, we don't know anything about these characters, so, like, who cares if they die, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I wasn't invested in the characters this time around.
Not at all, no. So another bad thing about this movie, it brings a lot more into question. So for one example, somehow Katie lost Hunter when she took him. Like, what happened with that?
I don't know. How did he get adopted?
Yeah, so he got adopted somehow. And on top of that, why would somebody allow that to happen? What happened between that time, really. Like,
Well, I know.
nothing's really explained.
It would have made so much more sense if Robbie was Hunter, because then it would like explain why Katie has like, you know, she raised Hunter or whatever, and rather than just her somehow having Robbie, we don't know how Robbie came into the picture. It just would have made so much more sense to just have Hunter be with Katie and like, you know, do something around that.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I thought was happening. But I'm pretty sure what they wanted to do is they wanted to make it a twist.
Yeah.
But in doing that, it totally backfired and made it more, I guess, ridiculous in a way, if you were to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, like the storyline just doesn't really make any sense when you really look at it. And like you said, I don't even know how they ended up adopting Hunter, because I don't know, it just doesn't nothing makes sense with this plot line.
And then it leads into where did Robbie come from? What's his story?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think it kind of explains in future entries. I'm hoping at least a little bit. I think they want more like adult, or I guess males, to turn into demons, something like that. I think it's loosely explained in like the marked ones, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe.
Something like that. Anyways, I think that it's stupid. Especially considering like Robbie's just kind of there. There was no lead up for it. And especially it's stupider thinking about how Katie has Robbie, but not Hunter. Yet I think Hunter's like kind of the primary target.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Now we don't know. Like, well, he still, I guess, is through this movie. But yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Not at all.
And then there's problems with Katie as well. Like, they talk about how she's getting ill and stuff and how the ambulance came to get her. But, like, why would she get into the ambulance? And, like, she's wanted for murder, or you could assume she is at least.
Yeah, definitely.
For killing her boyfriend, sister, brother-in-law, whatever. And it just doesn't make sense for her to go into the ambulance to the hospital when it seems she didn't really need it. Because, like, we see her later in the movie, she's perfectly fine. Or, like, as fine as Katie gets as a character, I guess.
And, like, we've seen the ambulance there. We know that she assumably went in the ambulance.
Yeah.
But so, for instance, let's say that she didn't go in the ambulance. I think the main reasoning for that would have been for Robbie to get close to Hunter. But what are the odds that Robbie actually ends up in Hunter's household?
Well, yeah, to a normal person, normal family. Like, I get it, trying to be nice to a kid because they're just kids. They don't do anything. They have no control over their situation, really. But letting the kid that you've never met, don't know anything about, sleep in your house, not just one night. It's a questionable move for sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's other ways that you could have gone about it. You know, get in contact with somebody. Like
I'd imagine this is kind of a matter for like police or social services to take care of, especially like as aside from just like a random household. You're just gonna be like, oh yeah, no, you can just stay with the neighbors a couple of days. You're just gonna tell social services that or the police that. I'm not sure if that would fly too well. No. It could, again. I'm not either of those things, but who knows?
Well, and another thing is they maybe, because they had adopted Wyatt already, and they know how hard it is to get a kid through the system after adopting, so maybe they just wanted to take this one in as another kid.
I guess they're just collecting kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the parents are Katie, I guess.
Yeah. So like we mentioned, there's not a lot to talk about with this movie because it's the same movie 4 times in a row now. So I'll ask you, what was your overall thoughts on this movie?
My overall thoughts for this movie is that it was the worst one thus far, for pretty obvious reasons. It felt like it was drained of all life for the most part, is one way of describing it.
That's a good way to say it.
Pretty much everything was just done worse. The film's void of originality, which, to be fair, 2 and 3 were to an extent, but they were at least watchable for the most part.
Or tried to add something a little bit different to them, or like at least they did new jump scares.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, I agree completely with all those things you said. This is the worst one by far. So up to this point, at least, I can't say about further installments. But yeah, it's just, I found myself bored throughout the whole movie because it's just so repetitive. It's beaten into the ground, this formula that they used. And yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot for me to say. It's just, I was bored.
Yeah. So without any further ado, let's move on to our award ceremony where we award one not so lucky nominee the Darwin Award. This award goes out to a character that made a stupid decision that resulted in them getting killed, somebody else getting killed, or simply resulting in something bad happening that could have been easily avoided. This award can also be given to a character that is just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
Today's first nominee is Alex's mom, Holly, for blindly taking in a creepy little boy. We get that she has empathy for him, but at the same time, they could have likely found somewhere for Robbie to stay instead of at the people's house that he has never met before.
The other nominee we have for today is Alex, for not looking at the paranormal activities on any of the laptops to show to her parents that the house is being haunted by a demonic presence. Maybe if you showed your parents the knife disappearing then nearly killing your father, they might have believed you.
And the winner is Alex. She didn't have the worst decision-making skills on her list, but since she had a tool to see all the happenings that are likely taking up terabytes of hard drive space, you may as well look at it.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed our look into Paranormal Activity 4. If you end up playing the game alongside the movie, or if you have any other feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know in the comments if you think this is the worst film in the franchise thus far or not.
Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss tomorrow's episode where we are going to be making a drinking game for... If you want to check out our most recent video on Paranormal Activity 3, click on the box on the top right. Or if you want to see a playlist of all the drinking games and movies we review, click on the box below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying, cheers to fears.